fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got with the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Six very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Hello everyone and welcome to what is going to be another fantastic round of tonight's broadcast. We're here at Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya for round number 3 of the Club Day Masters presented by Aussie Cars. It's the TCR cars, it's Barcelona, it's going to be 2 races tonight in what is going to be a sensational night of racing. It's cool conditions, the TCR cars are going to absolutely love these cars, this track condition. So we're going to see some fast lap times, great racing as well, because Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya is actually a track that will particularly suit these cars as we get onto the Google Earth imagery and we zoom in on where this circuit is. Of course, a circuit that is well known for a lot of Formula 1 testing, and it's a circuit that really has a little bit of everything. If you want slow speed chicanes, well, there's turn 1 and the final corner there for you. You want middle speed? Well, pretty much that is all of Sector 2, and there's some high-speed stuff thrown in there as well, including the very last corner, which sees you going back onto the front straight, which, as you can see by the track map, is absolutely ridiculously long. Opened in 1991 and weighing in at 4.7 kilometers. This is a favorite amongst many drivers because, as I mentioned, passing is very, very easy here. I'm Bo Elbert, and alongside me tonight, I have Mr. David Haynes, and in the cameras tonight and directing around will be Mr. J.K. Kennedy. David, TCR, Barcelona, it's a combo you can't go too wrong. Might just be having a few little technical difficulties on David's side, so I shall continue on and soldier on. But as we can see, Matthew Cartellone, our championship leader after week 2, so he's had a very strong start to the season there. And of course, in a championship, it's often underrated just how important it is to really come out of the box swinging and getting points on the board nice and early. And you can see there that he already has a small lead. It's not the biggest lead in the world over Jack Boyd, but nonetheless, it is what you need to do. And you can also see that Liam Caplice in position number 3 there as well, with the top 5 rounded out by Murray Vartanian and Adam Funslow as well. So early days in the championship, and I mean, you cannot rule anybody out at this point in time. It is a long championship. We're going to see plenty more action to come in the remaining rounds of this championship. But what we might do is get a hot lap up on screen around Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, and we're going to get an idea of just how aggressive these cars are to drive around this circuit. Now, being front-wheel drive, these cars would not deal with the hairpins all too easily. Of course, Barcelona does have a lot of long, sweeping corners. Where you put your foot down at a TCR car is so important, and as we can now see on board down the front straight, you will see just how much steering lock is actually needed at times through the final corner and the rest of the circuit. Of course, these TCR cars built for nothing but understeer, it feels like. The long front straight, you can see the lights on the dash there just revving away. The car is hard on the rev limiter as we brake hard into turn number 1, down to 3rd gear, using all of that inside curb you can, exiting on the middle of the road and opening up turn number 2 as we then head into turn number 3. Of course, you don't want to go too fast through that first chicane, or you are just going to compromise yourself the entire way turn number 3, which feels like it goes on forever, and especially in a TCR car, the exit is very, very crucial. That's sector 1 done. We're now hard on the brakes for turn number 4, dip the car in, and what you want to do here is actually hold the car a lot tighter than you think the entire way through. Keep yourself on the right side of the circuit up into 5th gear, but not for long, because you're immediately back down to almost 2nd gear in these TCR cars around Barcelona. On the power, using all of the AstroTurf on the exit there, making sure you maximize your corner exit speed. But then into a very tricky part. It's a high-speed chicane by Barcelona standards, but you have to make sure you don't run too wide because there's a sausage curb there that is more than happy to damage the floor of your car if you give it even a slight opportunity. Through the long turn number 8 now, building speed all the way down this back straight where we can see a few passes in this particular race. We are using the more high-speed version of this next corner. Of course, we're using the MotoGP layout around here, but it is still a place where if you're brave, you can get a good corner exit, you can definitely send one down the inside, but if you don't make it stick through there, you're then on the outside for a very, very long right-hander, and you want to make sure you are not on the outside here because you will get pushed out wide every single time. The high-speed end to the lap is concluded by that one right-hander, and if that wasn't enough, we have a second immediately after. Down to fourth gear, you can't quite take it flat like you can in a Grand Prix car, but nonetheless, plenty of pace in the Jack Boyd Audi TCR around Barcelona. And David, that was a look at how these TCR cars go around Barcelona. But what are your thoughts on the racing action we can expect tonight? All right, so still a few technical difficulties on David's part. We do apologize for that. But you can see the race conditions up on screen, 8:30 in the morning. So nice and early. I hope the drivers aren't too tired after a very early morning. Mostly cloudy, but the track temp is some 21 degrees. So as I mentioned, plenty of grip is available as the drivers continue to work their way through. And as you can see, 2 30-minute races, and we are going to see a compulsory pit stop and random safety cars in this as well. And at the refuel, you're looking at around 21 litres at the pit stop. So these drivers have to make sure they've got their fuel numbers sorted, but we've got qualifying going on at the moment. We're 6 minutes in to a 10-minute session. And I tell you what, Jack Boyd, we saw the hot lap from him just a few moments ago, and he's got the hot lap out on track at the moment with current provisional pole by 0.5 of a second over your championship leader there. So the two out front, first and second in the championship, are continuing their little battle there, but it's then a little bit of a gap back to Adam Funslow, who was third in the championship and also third in this qualifying, some 0.5 second down at the moment. You can see plenty of nice looking liveries out on display tonight. These TCR cars are obviously a bit of a unique look in terms of their actual body shaping, but it does open up the opportunity for some very nice liveries. And Matthew Cartellone for Whipperman Racing is doing exactly that in what is a very Audi-inspired livery. See how he gets on around this particular lap. And at the moment, he is very, very close to your pole sitter, Jack Boyd. But the thing is, he has no draft. And around a circuit like Barcelona, a draft is often underrated because that front straight is so long, and you can actually end up finding yourself about 0.5 of a second at the end of that front straight, as I think we may have David back now.
Check.
I can hear you.
Okay, well, good. I mean, it's good. It's good to be here, and thank you for stepping up so well, such short notice, Bo. And indeed, great to be here at Barcelona, which shares quite a bit of its characteristics with Phillip Island. A lot of fourth gear corners, very flowing, very fast pit straight. So I think the accents will be a bit different, but the racing is going to look quite similar, and the format also unchanged.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 30-minute races. We're going to see random safety cars, a pit stop of 21 litres, roughly there or thereabouts as well. So these drivers have a lot to think about. But at the moment, Matthew Cartellone has found his way to the top, displacing Jack Boyd. And I mentioned not wanting to give anyone a draft. He backs out immediately and has no further part in this next qualifying lap. So we have another driver in a almost Rainbow Warriors inspired livery making their way through the final corner, and look who it is, Mr. Nick Skariev, as he makes his way through the final corner and across the line, currently 25th, makes his way up 7 spots to 18th. A good lap there from Nick.
Yeah, precisely. He's been up and down, winning and losing throughout all the races so far this championship. Had some horrible results and had some great finishes as well. Been a beneficial recipient of that top 15 invert that we're going to have in race 2 as well. So qualifying right now, setting the grid for race 1, and then the finishing order from race 1 carries us through to race 2 with the top 15 inverted. So if you can keep yourself in the top half of the field, that's not only a good result in race 1, but it puts you in a great position for race 2 as well.
Yeah, exactly, of course. Sometimes you do need to think about not just where you're finishing in race 1, but sometimes you see drivers tactically thinking about what they'll do in race number 2 for the starting order as well, because sometimes you can be just challenging the driver in front for a position, but instead of going for a risky move on the last lap to try and get that one extra finishing position, you can just be, hey, I'll just hang back and I'll start ahead of you in the very next race if the invert works in their favor. As we have a look at Lee Harrison on screen at the moment, and we're seeing some decent sector times at the moment from the 24 car, so we'll see how this goes around these final 2 corners, tipping at really high speed using the much higher speed version of the Formula 1 Grand Prix circuit compared to what we now have with the very awkward, very clumsy, no one really likes the chicane as Leigh Harrison rounds the final corner, building up to 200 kilometers an hour, but the finish line will come up first, and the lap time is just not enough. It's a 0.388, and that is oh so close to Jack Boyd, but not close enough as Jack Boyd improves to now put a 10th of a second over the rest of the field. So strong pace there from your current championship runner-up.
Time runs out. That's checkered flag and a hard finish on qualifying. Great qualifying by Jack Boyd, by Leigh Harrison, by Matthew Cartellone. Those are some of our championship names, and they've done oh so well. So let's look at the grid then, Bo.
Absolutely, and it will be Jack Boyd starting it off on pole position ahead of Leigh Harrison, who rounds out the front row. Matthew Cartellone in third place ahead of Aaron Oliver and Adam Funslow, the top five. So all of your championship protagonists at the moment finds their way at the front of the audio. Mario Vartanian in position number 6 ahead of Dale Carpenter and Steve Owen in position 8 at the end of row number 4, with the top 10 rounded out by Andrew Hobby and Christopher Henn.
And our next cars on the grid, Glenn Boyd, Michael Smith crossing on row 6. Behind them, Ivan Vantigiato and Caleb Hydes. Then Daniel Webster and Hayden Jackson. Liam Caplice did so well in round 1, again starting deep in the field in 17th alongside Sam Lehman in 18th. Then Shannon McMillan and Jack Childs are row 10.
Absolutely, and then row 11 will go to the pairing of George Gutierrez and Greg Holmes, 21st and 22nd, ahead of Nick Skaryev, Richard Brookfield, and Darren Sharp, your top 25 on the grid on what is 32 cars action-packed here tonight, with Brady Bunchanen in 26th, ahead of Matthew Pontello, Patrick J. Panton, Matthew McMillan, Adam Sharp, and then our final 2 cars on the grid is included with PHILLIP Paradiso and Ben Edwards as well. So we're looking at about 30 seconds until the race gets underway. David, what are your thoughts?
Always about the pit stops early in the race. Quite a few drivers will go for that pit lane at the end of lap 1. Some will go a little bit longer, but you definitely don't want to still be out there not having made your pit stop when the safety car gets called. And when that safety car gets called is bit random, but we get underway, Bo.
Absolutely we do, and it's a pretty even start from the front of your field. A good start from Jack Boyd, who is maybe just slightly edging ahead of Leigh Harrison, but look at Matthew Cartellone, who is looking left, right, maybe left again. He will go, just trying to see if there's a bit of a gap as there's contact in the midfield. A car is off and crashing, and amazingly, oh no, there's been a big skittle effect. The entire field is getting checked up. Turns number 1. It's not often you see this at Barcelona, but sadly, immediately, we've seen chaos and a lot of cars damaged.
Up to 3 wide and a lane change that sent Steve Owen into the barrier, and then he couldn't get it back under control. Rejoined in the middle of turn 1 with the rest of the pack bearing down, and that spelled chaos for a lot of cars, but thankfully, they might go for an early pit stop. A late safety car will bring them back into this one, so it's not game over, but it is game on up the front, side by side with Jack Boyd, who closes the door on Matthew Cartellone. Now Mario Vartanian wants to get in for it as well.
Absolutely, these are touring cars. You can beat and bang some mirrors if you want, but boy oh boy, the gloves are off immediately as Vartanian actually ends up pushing Jack Boyd over the little ripple strip on the inside there and almost gets a bit of airtime as Jack Boyd, and now he's a bit compromised. Is that floor damage? Because he is getting a little bit slow in the front down the back straight. And we've got Leigh Harrison just closing a little bit. A big dive there on the brakes from Matthew Cartellone, but can't quite do anything about it as Jack Boyd now has Leigh Harrison looking around the outside, which will turn to the inside, but the door is firmly shut.
So from a bit of catastrophe behind them, this top 5 are racing like it's the final lap of the race. And who's going to go for pit in at the end of lap 1? Leigh Harrison is going to be the first to do so, and he gets followed by Cartellone and Aaron Oliver. It's just Vartanian and Jack Boyd who are going to carry on for another lap here.
Absolutely, but this might be good for your top 2, of course. If the random safety car comes out right now, it's bad news, but otherwise, they give themselves a bit of breathing room back to 3rd place now, which is in the hands, I believe, of Christopher Henn, who started in 10th place, I might add. An amazing start from Christopher to work his way up so many positions, but that's a lot of breathing room for your top 2 now. If they can just play nice, not destroy each other's panels on the car, they may be able to break away slightly and really get the advantage over the likes of Harrison and Cartellone.
We definitely saw a few drivers willing to, be friends, even just for a couple laps early on to try and build that gap around the pit stops before fighting fiercely later on. Vartanian and Boyd in that mood this evening. We've seen a few of those cars rejoining, and Leigh Harrison still ahead of Catalone and Aaron Oliver amongst that battle. It gets hot in the rest of the top 10 now.
It absolutely does. We're just looking at George Gutierrez, who is trying to find a way past Jack Childs at the moment in the obnoxiously coloured car. I've got to say, pink livery there with blue wheels. That is quite striking, to say the least. But nonetheless, George Gutierrez, you can see the wheel work and the amount of steering lock required to really get the most out of these TCR cars. It's a car you've got to really be up on the wheel. You've got to be focused. You've got to be in control at every stage of the way. But of course, if you do burst the car into oversteer, whether that's just upsetting it on a curb or something of the like, hey, just put your foot down and it'll generally correct itself, David.
The front wheel drive car, the rear is along for the journey at times. And Vartanian along for the journey with Jack Boyd here through the final sector. First and second. Boyd goes in, Vartanian stays out. That's critical.
Yeah, that is critical, and that's going to mean that he's now going to be all by his lonesome, and we'll see what that means for him if he's able to use that clean air to his advantage. And at the moment, I think he can, as a 155 is a very fast lap, but Jack Childs, 154s are just a little bit faster, and that is the pace he is going to continue running as he now finds himself running in the 5th position, as the rest of the drivers still yet to appear. As we see a nice little battle here happening down in towards turn number 1, and Brady there just decides to give up against Richard Brookfield and not fight it too hard, as we actually have a spin in the background. Matthew Pontello, and it's just over-rotated a little bit at turn number 1. We were saying, if this car spins, you can generally correct it quite easy. Unfortunately for Matthew, it didn't quite pan out that time.
Replay, he wasn't necessarily alone there in turn 1 and 2. Here's what happened for Pontello. The rear does get loose, and it's so far around that he struggles to save it. In an awkward spot there. Gets it going again. Someone else must have had a similar problem there. Maybe warming up the front tyres faster than the rear tyres early in the race.
Absolutely. Of course, these cars do not feature tyre warmers off the start, so you have to build that temperature as the run goes on. And I do remember this is a car that does keep going and going, getting faster and faster, all the way up to sometimes about lap 4 or 5. So even at this early stage, we're now 5 minutes into this race, there's still the potential. These tyres still aren't at proper operating temperatures, as Jack Boyd is not at proper operating laps at the moment because he's got traffic in front of him. And that's just going to hold him up ever so slightly as these two continue to scrap away at this early point of the lap. But Jack Boyd did actually end up jumping the likes of Harrison and Catalone as well. That's crucial. So the overcut there with the fresh tyres and being able to get them up to temperature, punching some good laps. While pitting, of course, you'll lose some temperature. You'll go slower on your out lap. That actually panned out quite nicely for Jack Boyd. So does that mean Mario Vartanian out front, who continues to punch out laps in the 153s at the moment, is that going to be good news for him as just about the rest of the field decides to pit now?
The field know that they can go 1, 2, 3, 4 laps into the race, but from here on out, they really don't want to be caught out by that safety car. And great shot there of exactly how hard you have to attack the pit entry here, because you take the entry on the inside of the final corner, but then you can still go flat out for quite a couple of meters before you need to get on the brakes for the commitment cones start of the pit lane speed limit. Here's Jack Boyd, the leading of all the cars who have pitted. Quite a little bit of a break there to PHILLIP Paradiso, and then, well, Leigh Harrison, Aaron Oliver, Matthew Catalone are all fighting here. And again, like Phillip Island, this could let Jack Boyd get away, but they know a safety car will be inevitable.
Absolutely. I'm just looking at the delta times at the moment, and it does sort of suggest that even though he was an outlap last time around, that Jack Boyd is slightly going faster than Mario Vartanian out front at the moment. So that will be very interesting indeed. If the safety car doesn't come out anytime soon, Mario takes his pit stop and we get a run at least a couple or more laps after the pit stop for Mario. But if a safety car does come out now, then yeah, absolutely, Mario is in a whole world of trouble as Jack Boyd has a little bit of traffic in front. That is Shannon McMillan, who is still yet to take a pit stop and is currently running in 4th spot. Of course, Shannon qualified in 19th spot, so by electing just to run a little bit further into this opening stint, able to get themselves track position, and just try and make something happen from there. But as you can see, Jack Boyd behind, plenty of pace in that car, and it's just closing and closing. But of course, with no blue flags in effect, Shannon has no right at all to just let Jack through. But at the same time, they know that it's just quite a different race these two are in today. Jack Boyd fighting for the race win, and I think Shannon maybe just eyeing off a top 10 finish at the end of tonight. So Jack Boyd gets that position nice and easily, but Mario, does he know where the pit entry is? Did he read the track map?
Well, it's a high-risk, high-reward strategy because you have to imagine he's doing well for himself right now in the lap times, not needing to worry about as much of the traffic. But the longer he keeps that game up, the more risk he is taking. So when might we see Mario Vartanian pit? Those behind him have decided pit in is the way to go for Daniel Webster and Matthew McMillan. But PHILLIP Paradiso has had some problems, so too Christopher Hen.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking at the delta and the timing screens at the moment. I think we've only got maybe 4 or 5 cars that haven't pitted at the moment as we get a Motum Simulation replay up on screen. And what has happened here is Lee Harrison sets a new fastest lap of the race, and that is a bad place to come across a spinning car. But how did that car end up spinning as a caution cone gets brought out onto the racing line, which is not ideal at all. So we'll just have a look here and see what's happened. It's the purple car on the inside, actually running a little bit slow, a little bit off the pace. And it's just caught out the other car there. So that was PHILLIP Paradiso, who was running a little bit slow there, and sadly just caught out the other driver. So that's a shame to see.
Paradiso would practice his pit entry there. He's very, very early on the pit limiter as well, which might have caused a bit of confusion around there. Door banging there for Gutierrez and Jack Childs.
Yep, absolutely. So Jack Childs, you can see on the outside, it's a long way to go as hello, a little bit of contact, why not? And they will continue on their scrap. But what it has done is allowed Childs to get a pretty poor exit out of there. And Caleb Hides is now closing as finally Mario has messaged into his team and asked, where is the pit entry? And they've finally been able to instruct him there as Caleb Hides looks up the inside at Jack Childs in that battle we were watching just a few moments ago. And you can see here that that's a pretty nice move from Caleb Hides, but he hasn't quite cleared the overlap. And what that's going to do is allow Childs to get up the inside. They'll continue through this long right-hander, more contact. They're really not afraid to use the elbows in this car. And of course, this car featuring the new damage model. So these cars are perhaps a little bit weaker in that sense that there's a lot more you can actually brake on the car as Caleb Hides gets very unsettled by the curb. As that has actually not worked out in any way, shape or form how I thought it would for Mario Vartanian, who is currently rejoining down in 5th position. And he's some 3.9 seconds behind your race leader, which is now Jack Boyd.
Yeah, not only has he not come out with Jack Boyd, he's still tailing off these other 3 of Harrison, Oliver, Cardellone, and then Vartanian might be able to catch them up, but he's definitely going to be 5th after that pit stop. I don't know if maybe he didn't attack pit entry as well as some others, if his pit stop time was a bit weak, because his lap times, his pace while he stayed out definitely suggested he was going to be challenging Jack Boyd, but something with the pit stop just wasn't executed perfectly, and it's that 1 second, 2 seconds you lose from, you know, not hitting your box cleanly, not attacking the pit in, can see you not in race winning contention at this point in the race.
Well, it wasn't just 1 or 2 seconds. It ended up being 3 seconds for Mario there. So a 17.1 versus a 14.3 for your race leader, with some pit stops ranging at the 13-second mark. But forget about 13 seconds at a pit stop. How about door-to-door contact for the 2nd lap in a row? Deja vu, if ever there was. And these two just continue to scrap away at the moment, do Jack Childs and Caleb Hides, and more caution cones get abused off the racing circuit as we are now some 12 minutes into this first race. And speaking of, right on cue, I'm seeing the safety car leaving its pit box and joining the circuit. The first of our random safety cars in this particular race is out, and the iRacing massive truck, I don't really know if it is actually a manufacturer. It might be. Does it have a Chevy badge? It looks like a Chevy. It does not
branded. It's definitely a Silverado though, but it's not. Doesn't appear to be branded. And I tell you what, we've now had every pace vehicle, because we've had the Mustang, we've had the Porsche, now we've had the truck. So, yeah, using all the vehicles available here in Club Day Masters, it is branded official pace truck.
Oh, that's a very extinct title. I'm very proud to have the official pace truck. I'm really sick of these unofficial pace trucks. leading the race. It's
Just generic wannabes, isn't it? You know, sick of them.
It's not what you want to see. It's just not professional. But tonight, we're pulling no stops, everything out, and it is the official pace truck with Jack Boyd behind, Lee Harrison in second, Aaron Oliver currently running in third place, Matthew Cartellone in position number 4, our championship leader, and the top 5, rounded out by Mario Vartanian, who now gets all that margin that he lost in the pit stop, regrouped, and he can now fight back with the rest of the drivers in front. But yeah, a very slow pit stop there, so his actual lane time was fairly competitive against the likes of Jack Boyd and the other drivers, including Aaron Oliver. But Lee Harrison must have had a very good stop, because he was 1.3 seconds faster than our race leader Jack Boyd, and then an entire 1.7 seconds, I believe that is, faster in the lane as well. So well done to Lee Harrison, clearly doing their homework on the pit entry.
Yeah, and it's also a bit of an inexact science trying to work out how much fuel you need to take when you know there is a safety car coming. How much time are you going to spend behind the safety car? How much fuel do you save behind the safety car? And once you factor in 2 safety car laps, how long overall is the race going to go? It factors in a little bit more unknowns than just, say, trying to do a 20-lap race where you can very easily work out how much fuel you're going to need for that much flat-out racing distance. Here, question mark about the fuel saving, about the total distance. So, you know, you don't want to spend too long fueling the car, but at the same time, very, very likely that you would lose a whole heap of positions if you had to save too much fuel. Knowing how backed up the whole field is behind you at the safety car restart, you can't afford to be saving fuel in a 12-minute dash to the end.
No, absolutely not. This is going to be gloves off. I mean, if you didn't think the first 18 minutes were gloves off, this is going to be even worse. These drivers are going to be bashing panels and doing whatever they can in true touring car fashion to try and gain some position. So if you're fuel saving, you are in a world of trouble, because you're going one direction. Unfortunately saying it is not going forward. Brady Bunchen there on screen in position number 30 at the moment for Team RSG. And of course, he had a bit of a rough race. He qualified down in 26, is now trying to make his way a little bit further up the order, as these two are trying to catch up to the safety car queue at the moment. It's only a few meters in front, so these three will find their way up to the back of Michael Smith Crossing in just a few moments' time. And Michael running a very nice looking livery that we would often see in the real world. And there is a lot of bright liveries here tonight, as well as I think I just saw a BWT Audi as well in the form of Ben Edwards. So a lot of drivers getting very creative with deliveries here tonight.
Yeah, and then you got to ask yourself, is that a Racing Point tribute or a Lechner Racing tribute? And I reckon it looks a little bit more Lechner, which would suit an Audi or a touring car or a GT. But yeah, indeed, quite a few liveries out here that resemble real world racing liveries of the drivers that we have here and their own real world cars. A few tributes, a few iRacing teams, for example, HM Engineering, they're on Jack Boyd. We have a little bit of everything. And Darren Sharp, what's going on here? Is this just an opportunity to get some repairs fixed?
Well, he did actually overshoot his pit entry on, his pit box entry, I should say. So it wasn't the best pit lane journey for Darrem, as he does decide to get what I believe some new tyres. So he's been up on the jacks for quite some time. And that's something you cannot afford to do in green flag pit stops. Because of course this car is quite slow for a tyre change. It takes an enormous amount of time. I don't quite have the exact figure on me, but I know it's considerably longer than you would see for a GT3 or a GTE car. I believe to the realm of almost double. So in green flag conditions, absolutely do not take tyres, but he's the only driver to pit under this yellow flag. No one else around him. He's not going to lose any more track position. Why not throw some tyres on and see what happens?
Bit of a nothing to lose strategy. And of course, I always think for a rolling start behind a pack like this, the new tyres is a lot easier. You get more time to bring them in than, in green flag racing, you bolt out of the pit lane on very, very cold tyres and you're a bit of a sitting duck for, half a lap or a lap. Here, you get a lap behind the safety car to warm them up a little bit. I reckon that's a lot smoother introduction. But the lights are off the truck that our whole field is following, and you saw from some of the onboard cameras exactly how much it towers over these, small Audi-based race cars. Big vehicle puts into perspective the little touring car TCR machines we've got.
Absolutely. They're little in a lot of factors in terms of height, power, but definitely not low on action at all. As you can see, the lights are off on the official pace truck. And we are just a couple of corners. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4 corners away from getting ourselves back to green flag racing. And it will be an exciting restart, of course. Jack Boyd has to absolutely nail this restart, because if he doesn't, what we're seeing is a big headwind into turn number 1. We're seeing wind speeds. Where is my little statistic? Wind speed of 26 kilometers an hour in the opposite direction. So it's a headwind in towards turn number 1. So for the driver in second, Lee Harrison, that is a big hole in the air for him to be punched through and gain a bit of overspeed on your race leader and maybe take the race lead away if Jack Boyd doesn't get the restart he wants, or if Lee Harrison reads him like a book. This is critical for Jack Boyd. We are looking at 11.5 minutes left in this race. We'll get updated on just how many laps that will be, but I would imagine that would be somewhere in the realm of either 6 or 7 laps to go. The official pace truck will now make its way towards the pit entry, and Jack Boyd holds nice and steady at 82 kilometers an hour, building a little bit of speed, just waiting and waiting for the moment, seeing when it's right. 86, 87, 88 kilometers an hour. He's creeping faster. Green flag is out, and finally they're away, and Lee Harrison has read him like a book, but Aaron Oliver has absolutely bamboozled them all and got the best run of them all. But Aaron Oliver does not have a draft, and Lee Harrison does. You can see now Lee is beginning to pull away. Does he challenge a race leader into turn 1? He does not, but he gets challenged into turn 1 by Aaron Oliver, who gets a big wiggle on the inside. They all hold it as they were, so it is no change of position for your top 3, but lots of change of position in your mid-pack. 3, 4 wide for some of these drivers through the long turn number 3, so they all get out cleanly. So far, so good. The drivers have learnt their lesson. They're working their way through on cold tyres on this opening lap, and so far it looks like we may get away with this. Oh no, one car around the 33.
Richard Brookfield manages to do what you said, put the power down. Has a little bit of a nudge there with Skariev. Now they're 3 wide and there's more contact.
Yep, and that's Ben Edwards.
Edwards, who we were looking at under the safety car now, with some problems there on the restarts, tried to jump right back into the racing. Jack Boyd's managed to keep control of the field on the restart here. I think maybe he held them a little bit long, but it was better than going early and being swamped on the way to turn 1. Still Harrison, Oliver, Cardellone with him, but big loser off the restart there. Mario Vartanian down to 15th. He got involved with a little bit of argy-bargy through turn 3. And once you lose your momentum on a restart like that, you're going backwards and backwards and backwards, just an absolute punching bag. Now he's in the middle, 3 wide, where you never want to be. Turkey in the sandwich.
He's still a punching bag, isn't he? He's having no luck at all on this restart as Mario Vartanian is still going backwards. As you can see, more battles up front. We're looking at the number 15 of Sam Lehman, who's fighting away with Glenn Boyd at the moment. They're going side by side through the long, fast right-hander. And Glenn has to be careful because that little curb on the inside, on the outside, sorry, can throw you around quite a lot. As now Liam Caplice looks up the inside, can't get the run. And what that's done is hurt his exit speed. And here comes Ivan Vantiagato now down the long front straight, trying to get a bit of a run. Almost contacted high speed as Ivan actually ends up getting the drafts given to him by Glenn Boyd, and they're all going to dart their way onto the brakes. Almost 3 wide into turn 1. They're still scrapping away now. Andrew Hobby is going to get the bumper into the back of Ivan, who gets sent spinning around, and that is a disaster there for him, who has to be cautious on the rejoin. And that was, oh, I'm sorry, Ivan, but that was a horrific rejoin by every stretch of the imagination. That was horrific.
Straight into 2 cars. Parts go flying everywhere from Ivan Vantiagato and the other cars there on the exit of turn 2. Ooh, in slow motion, wheels, tires, suspension assemblies, front bumpers going everywhere.
Yeah, not great at all. If you do spin out on track, always hold your brakes until a safe gap emerges on the circuit. But that's all right. Ivan will learn from that, I'm sure. And race control will make sure of that, unfortunately, as we look at Sam Lehman in position number 9 at the moment, attacking the back of Jack Childs at the moment in the Mark 1 esports car, or liveried car, I should say, of course, representing Team Spartans in this particular series, as they now dart their way into this long corner that the MotoGP layout uses. So it's a slightly faster entry than you use in the Formula 1 layout, What that means is less of a braking zone for Sam Lehman to try and slot a car up the inside. Glenn Boyd thinks about it though, but couldn't quite manage it. They're all very, very nip and tuck at the moment. We're looking at the timing screens, 4 laps to go in this race, so all these drivers know that time is running out. If they want to make a move, they've got to make it soon, but at the moment, time is in the favor of Jack Boyd, who extends his gap to 0.6 of a second, and Lee Harrison with the draft down the front straight will close a little bit of that down. But the fact is right now, Lee Harrison looking very fast, but Matthew Cartellone, fastest car on track, last lap around.
Yeah, the draft was absolutely massive, and you got to look back here, George Gutierrez. There was not room there in this contact in turn 1. More smoke, more cars off the track, and look at the airtime on the rejoin.
I mean, I'm a fan of rallycross, but there's no Audis in iRacing for rallycross. There's more rallycross in the background. And unfortunately, that's about how my World Championship went as well. And Mario Vartanian, now 5th place in the championship, I do believe, finds the outside wall at turn number 3 up the inside. I believe this might be Glenn Boyd, who finally makes a move happen on Caleb Hydes there. So a great effort there as these guys all scrap away, and Sam Lehman now getting all out of shape as Caleb dives it to the inside on a very late move indeed. That one wasn't quite going to pay off, and now he's hurt his exit speed. So Sam Lehman is going to build that momentum and maybe bring up a bit of a challenge into the next corner. Couldn't quite do it, but this little battle pack is firing off at the moment.
Yeah, it's popping off. A little pack forming here behind Boyd with Hydes, Lehman, Hobby, Gutierrez, Daniel, Webster. And they're not shy about trying to send a move in this short, sharp sprint that we have to the finish after that safety car. But further up, there's a pack of 4 cars for the lead. And this might let Jack Boyd get away in the lead because Cartellone's got in front of Lee Harrison.
They'll be quite the opposite. I think that'll mean that Jack Boyd now has to try and run because Matthew has been punching in some very fast lap times. As what that was... Alright, I don't really want to comment on that in all honesty. That was not a great showing of racecraft by any stretch of the imagination, but Matthew Cartellone now was the fastest car last lap around. He'll be a bit slow on this lap because, of course, he had to try and make an overtake happen. But if he can stay ahead of Lee Harrison at the end of this straight, which is easier said than done, you can see Harrison closing, but not quite enough to challenge towards turn number 1. In fact, even with an overtake, Cartellone was slightly faster than Jack Boyd last lap around. So now with clean air, he doesn't have to find a way past Lee Harrison. Is he able to close that gap down? It's 0.9 of a second, 0.3 a lap. That's not out of the realm of possibility. We know Jack Boyd is good, but we also know the slipstream into turn 1 is also very good as Andrew Hobby dives into the pits with extensive damage on the Audi RS3 TCR.
Yeah, Jack Boyd in the lead's been very, very aware of the slipstream of the draft that he's creating. Every time we get the long shot down the pit straight, he's moving around a little bit, just making everyone behind him have to follow in his wheel tracks. Just try to make sure they don't get the best slipstream off him because it is worth an incredible amount, especially with that headwind. He's being very clinical, very precise, but it is just so difficult to cut that draft, set everyone else behind adrift if they are going to be following in your wheel tracks and making no mistakes.
Absolutely, 0.9 of a second was the margin for Cartellone to hunt down halfway through the lap, and it's now 0.6 of a second on the timing screen, so that gap is coming down. We're not even at the front straight yet. What we might see here is a grandstand finish for race number 1. If you want more TCR action, we've got another 30-minute race right after this as well. So these drivers are going to keep on battling. We're going to have some great action here tonight as Boyd gets a very nice run onto the mini straight, but it's this straight coming up that you've got to get the run, and that's a slowdown. He took too much, I think. Was that a slowdown? I don't quite know, but his exit is horrific. And Matthew Cartellone, championship leader, takes the race lead away, and Jack Boyd is still dropping. It was a slowdown. It was a lot of apex taken through the penultimate corner of the lap, and iRacing said, nope, that's a little bit too much, as Lee Harrison almost runs into the back of your race leader as well. So Harrison, he lost the position to Cartellone a few laps earlier. Now he wants to regain it, not just for position, but for the race win as well, David.
Yeah, exactly. All on with 2 laps to go amongst our top 3, and it's going to be feisty, but there's been some action deeper in the field. That is huge damage on Michael Smith crossing, and I think he might have... We're hearing he popped a tyre, so wheel to wheel, a little bit of contact, and then... Tyre pops, car understeers, and he finds the barrier at speed there. That is unfortunate damage, and they can take a little bit of wheel-to-wheel banging, but eventually something gives way, and in the case of Michael Smith Crossing, it was the tyre. At the lead, all on. Jack Boyd searching for redemption in the few kilometres that are left. Cardellone trying to hold on to it, but Lee Harrison is quick. Aaron Oliver in fourth, watching, waiting. Can he make something of this?
Yeah, Jack Boyd has to drive clinically, and that is not clinically, that's just sending it on the brakes and seeing what happens. He has to be precise with his moves to make sure that he doesn't cause a crash and then lose out to Aaron Oliver, but it hasn't happened. And what has happened is Cardellone is going to have to defend for his life onto this final lap of the race, because now we thought Cardellone was going to be challenging Jack Boyd into turn one on the last lap. What's going to happen is it's going to be Jack Boyd with the draft this time and attacking Matthew Cardellone into turn one, who gets a horrific run out of the final corner. He's kept his foot in it to make sure that he gets as much speed as possible, and I think he might just be out of range here. I don't think Jack Boyd is going to be able to challenge into turn one. The bad news is there's 12 more corners after turn one for him to try and defend. We've got one lap to go officially. The white flag is in the air. It's Matthew Cardellone, it's Jack Boyd, it's Lee Harrison, and Aaron Oliver has hunted these guys down massively, and he is now a threat for a podium position as well. Of course, it's a top 15 invert for race number 2. They don't care about that. They want this race win. They want this podium at the moment, as Jack Boyd keeps a very tight line through turn number 4, while Matthew Cardellone just took a little bit too much. It was actually in the grass as well. So was that just a little bit of sign of pressure on the shoulders of Cardellone at the moment? Can he defend? Can he hold on for the next half a lap? At the moment, Lee Harrison still defending vigorously against Aaron Oliver behind as well. So I think very much it's a battle between first and second, and then third and fourth. I don't think it's a complete battle between your top 4. It is just 2 separate battles in close proximity at the moment, as Jack Boyd continues to try and reel in Matthew Cardellone, but he's running out of time, he's running out of options, and if he can't make a move happen here, and let's face it, that is a long way back, I think he might be out of choices here through this long left-hander, turn number 10. It's reprofiled for next year, but at the moment, it is just a high-speed left-hander that provides no opportunity for Jack Boyd. He tries to get close to Cardellone. He wants a bump and run, but it's not gonna come with 2 corners to go. Tip it in through the right-hander and see if it sticks, and it does stick for the 81 car, your championship leader. He scored more points than anyone in the first 2 rounds. And how about 3 rounds? Because all good things come in 3s. And it is a good thing for Matthew Cardellone. He takes out race number 1 in a thrilling finale here, ahead of Jack Boyd, Lee Harrison in 3rd. And 4th place will go to Aaron Oliver as well. What a fantastic race that was.
Yeah, exactly, and it's still going in the battle for reverse grid pole. 16th gets no biscuits. 15th gets pole position for race 2. Darren Sharp is trying to hold on to that one. It's Mario Vartanian, unfortunately, looks like he is going to finish 17th. Greg Holmes looks like he is going to get 15th place, therefore reverse grid pole for race 2. All fell apart for Mario Vartanian in this one, but it all came together for Cardellone. He was in the right place at the right time. Jack Boyd bit and burned by the track limits. Cardellone grabs the win.
Absolutely he does, but only by 0.3 of a second, such is the close racing we see in the Club Day Masters. Lee Harrison would round out race 1's podium ahead of Aaron Oliver, who tried everything he could on the final lap and just about got there. Adam Funslow would round out the top 5 ahead of Glenn Boyd, Sam Lehman, Daniel Webster, Caleb Hides, and Richard Brookfield, your top 10.
And then it's Liam Caplice in 11th. Moved up a couple of positions, but maybe not as many as he would have liked. Christopher Hayne in the wars, bumping and barging here and there, still gets 12th. Patrick Panton in 13th. Hayden Jackson 14th. Greg Holmes, lucky recipient of the reverse grid pole in 15th. Darren Sharp, not so lucky in 16th. Mario Vartanian 17th. Then Shannon McMillan, George Gutierrez, and Ivan Vantigiato.
Yep, and then 21st goes to Matthew McKillen, ahead of Matthew Pontello, Jack Childs, Nick Skariev, Philip Paradiso, Brody Bunchanen, Dale Carpenter, Michael Smith Crossing, who we saw have that big incident in the final few laps of the race with a puncture at the final corner, Andrew Hobby, Ben Edwards, Adam Shark, and Adam Sharp, and Stephen Owen rounding out our 32 cars for race 1. We're now into a 5-minute warm-up, and then we have our inverted top 15 race number 2. Oh boy, if you thought race 1 was action-packed, we've got a reverse grid for this second race.
Yep, precisely. And, well, we've already seen that the likes of, Jack Boyd and others can move their way forward through the field. Starting from 15th, are they going to approach the strategy differently? Will they pit earlier, stay out longer? But aside from the invert on the grid, the race format exactly the same. 30 minutes, a safety car somewhere in the middle. Say safety car, I mean official pace truck. Ooh. But yeah, nonetheless, the way you approach the race has got to be the same. It's just that the grid order will be a little bit different.
Yeah, it will be. And of course, we saw in race number 1, of course, I think a big talking point from race number 1 was right off the start. Turn number 1, we saw a fair bit of chaos, a lot of cars all over the place, which was a shame to see. And, race 2, the drivers have more experience under their belt. We should see the drivers being a little more patient in towards turn number 1, hopefully. And we can get a lot better racing in the first stint of the race and the second as well, once that safety car or the official pace truck period does come out. And we can get some great action for the next 30 minutes as well. So we're halfway done, still plenty to go, but it's been a good round so far for Matthew Cartellone, who will be your championship leader for yet another race. But race number 2 is coming up shortly. Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got everything outside. Both of them. Maloney. Oh,
he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh, my God. Oh, big crash. Oh, my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh, my God.
God, what?
Well, we are back and just 40 seconds away from getting onto the grid for race number 2. It's going to be 30 minutes. The top 15 from race 1 have been inverted. And boy, are we going to see some fireworks with a random safety car, as well as a mandatory pit stop needed to make it to the end of this particular race. I'm Bo Albert, and alongside me, I've got Mr. David Haynes for race number 2, with Jake Kennedy, believe it or not, still in the director's chair. And I think it's going to be a very exciting race indeed coming up. But also, just before we get into this race, an apology as well to the number 16 car, Brady Buchanan. I apologize for absolutely butchering your name. The director has slapped me on the wrist. I apologize. But we are just about to get ready to the grid for race number 2. The checkered flag is out in the warm-up. And we're going to see an interesting race as the track temperature has fallen dramatically with a lot of cloud cover here at Barcelona. track temperature now 22 degrees. So these drivers are going to have to put up with quite a lot of grip, which I'm sure they're pretty happy about in the understeering TCR car. But understeering their way to pole position for this one is Greg Holmes, who will share the front row with Hayden Jackson, with Patrick Panton in position number 3, Christopher Hen, and Liam Caplice, your top 5. Richard Brookfield will kick things off in position number 6 ahead of Caleb Hydes and Daniel Webster. Sam Lehman in position number 9, and Gled Boyd rounds out your top 10.
Yep, indeed. Adam Funslow, Aaron Oliver, Lee Harrison, Jack Boyd, Matthew Cartellone, the rest of your grid, and then Darrem Sharp at 16th, Vartanian in 17th, McMillan, George Gutierrez, and Ivan Fantiato are the top 20. Quickly through the remainder of the grid, that's Matthew McMillan, Matthew Pontello, Jack Child, Nick Skariev, Philip Paradiso, Brady Buchanan, Dale Carpenter, Michael Smith Crossing, Andrew Hobby, Ben Edwards, Adam Sharp, Steve Owen, unfortunately, going to start from the very back. Here we go.
Absolutely. That was a brilliant speed talk, by the way, David. Congratulations for that. But we are hearing that Mario Vartanian is not taking the start for this race, as the revs will rise, and then they will rise even more as it's green light and away goes second place Hayden Jackson. Goodbye. What a start from your driver on the front row. He is going to bolt away towards turn 1. Massive accident in the back. Up and over goes one of the Mark 1 esports cars, and that was a big hit there for, I believe, Jack Childs, and that is a disaster there. One of the worst crashes I've seen in quite some time of sim racing. I hope he's okay virtually and that he is not in a motion rig, as Christopher Hen finds their way up now into 3rd spot with a very nice run through turn number 3. The rest of the field working their way through. You can see a little bit there of Jack Boyd trying to find a way past Aaron Oliver there as they all funnel in towards turn number 4. And it looks like all of your front runners from that previous race do have no damage in this particular opening lap, which is great to see so far, as Boyd gets pushed down a bit wide, and he's going to make more damage now as contact. I see Caleb Hydes off the track as well, but Aaron Oliver lucky to escape contact, as Jack Boyd was all kinds of out of shape, and he's now 3 wide heading towards, I believe, turn number 6 and 7. This is a bad place to be, and he has to cut across the track. Big crash for these drivers, and is that Cartellone? I can't quite tell. Greg Holmes is one of the drivers out, and it's Cartellone, championship leader, race winner from race number 1 is gone as well. I think Jack Boyd has a slowdown. Everyone from race number 1 who did well has had a shocking race number 2, but this is the talking point. Cartellone, your championship leader, he's had such a great start to the season. Contact once, contact twice, and the 3rd time finished off the Whipperman racing car, and he, unbelievably, David, is out of the race.
Well, definitely he's going to fall off the lead lap at a minimum with this. If he could have stayed on the lead lap, then the safety car could maybe bring him back in, but the damage far too huge for him to be able to bring the car around to the pit lane. And yeah, huge implications from that reverse grid on the first lap of the race. Hayden Jackson is going to be in second. Liam Caplice is going to lead the race after race 1, but a lot of drivers after that have decided, let's pit early, try to get our way out of some of the traffic, and then come back in it after the safety car. That's like Aaron Oliver, Jack Boyd. You can see others on the pit lane there as well. Dale Carpenter, Michael Smith Crossing in there.
Only 17 cars have elected not to take the pit stop. That is the popularity of pitting on lap number 1, to make sure that you cannot in any way, shape or form be ruined by a safety or a pace truck coming out at all. But Liam Caplice, a great move in towards the turn number 1, down the front straight to actually take the lead away from Hayden Jackson, who had a lightning start, which was fantastic to see as more battles happened towards turn number 4. Daniel Webster trying to go the very long way around the outside there, and Glenn Boyd may make him pay the price, who now gets the inside. Don't want to make it 3 wide through here, and luckily they don't. Glenn Boyd, very pedestrian on the way in, and Daniel Webster, the opposite pedestrian, with a very robust way across the chicane there. And what that does is checks them all up, and Sam Lehman says, hey, I'll split the middle.
Then it's a great exit again from Boyd, but it's going to see him round the outside for the hairpin at the end of the straight here. But if you can hold it round the outside, becomes the inside for the next corner, but it doesn't look like that is what's going to happen. If anything, it checks Lehman and Boyd up a little further. Into the picture comes Darrem Sharp, potentially.
Yeah, he's trying, isn't he? He's just lining up in the background. Of course, we saw him take a slightly different strategy in the previous race. Doesn't have anything up his sleeve this time to try and bamboozle the rest of the field, as the two drivers who were fighting, Sam Lehman and also Glenn Boyd, decided to duck on into the pit lane. And now it was 17 cars that decided not to pit. It's now going to be even less, as Hayden Jackson will inherit the race lead as Liam Caplice decides to come down the pit lane. So a great start continues there for Hayden Jackson. He's got Adam Funslow in position number 2 at the moment, who slides his way through turn number 1 and 2. The chicane, you've really got to set up properly, or else you put yourself in a very bad spot for position number 3. But just getting our timing screen to refresh, and it's now 9 cars who have not taken a pit stop yet. So these drivers have really gone all in on the early pit stop strategy.
Yeah, well, if you were buried deep in the pack from the reverse grid, you want to pit early. If you were up front, maybe you wanted to pit early. So we've only seen a few keep going. Lee Harrison and Aaron Oliver have got to be so careful here, because they want to fight their way forward through the field after this pit stop. If they battle each other too much, they'll lose too much time. That's a good, narrower, tighter line through turn 3 for Aaron Oliver. But he is still just letting Lee Harrison run his lines, run his race for the moment. If he keeps letting that happen, they're going to start catching Richard Brookfield, Christopher Hayne, and Liam Caplice, and that is exactly what they need to do at this point in the race.
Absolutely. Don't fight at the moment. Just hit your marks. Make sure that you can close down the cars in front, and Liam Caplice is running for everything he's worth at the moment. Of course, he is our first driver who has taken a pit stop. So he is in the box seat at the moment, as a few drivers still yet to pit, as we are expecting a random safety car at some point in this race, which is going to throw things up dramatically and change the results ever so slightly. So Hayden Jackson and the rest of the drivers who have not pitted will have to be mindful of that. And Hayden Jackson has decided that he doesn't want to play any more risky than lap number 3, and he will dive on into the pits. Adam Funslow now inherits the race leader, was the fastest car last lap around. And Ivan Vantagiato will dive into the pits, as well as Caleb Hyde. Shannon McMillan will dive in as well. So that only leaves Mr. Matthew Pontello and Nick Skarajev, who continue to scrap away in towards turn number 1. Skarajev just looking up the inside. Can he make anything happen here on the number 28 car? And late on the brakes, he will go in the Rainbow Warriors inspired livery. And that is the job done there for Nick. So a great effort there from our SimSpeed commentator, as Matthew Pontello decides to take a lot of curb through turn number 2.
Yeah, he absolutely wasn't scared of getting it up on the painted stuff there to try to set up the run through turn 3. Hayden Jackson was your leader. He's going to rejoin critically in front of Lee Harrison, but then he goes wide. How's this going to affect Harrison and Oliver? Not at all. In fact, he's very aware of the fact that he's rejoined in front of some potential race winners. Jack Boyd is going to get the same treatment here as well.
Yep, so nice and careful there between those guys. Not careful as Pontello and Skarajev, as they come to a little bit of contact through turn number 5. They get away with it, but only just. I thought for a second that Skarajev may have got turned around and been in the kitty litter, a little bit like Matthew McMillan is experiencing at the moment, with a lot of damage on his Audi TCR. So we'll flick a modem simulation and replay up on screen, and the engine has gone on the McMillan brothers racing car. So a dodgy downshift, or maybe, just maybe, what you can do is actually hit a anti-cut curb around this circuit so hard that you'll cause overheating issues. And what happens after an overheating issue, David?
The front falls off in the case here for McMillan. Yeah, it is very, very possible to damage some of the radiators. Oil temperature, oh, so critical. Once that is beyond workable amounts, the engine says goodbye. Be very, very tough for that driver. Here's Adam Funslow from the lead, going for the pit lane. Daniel Webster's following him. Skarajev and Pontello, well, Skarajev's in. Pontello is brave, carrying on.
Yep, so he will inherit the race lead this time around. But Liam Caplice, your effective race leader, your first driver who has taken a pit stop. Christopher Hen has also taken a pit stop. These two, I believe, are running as teammates in this particular series. I actually think the car in third place of Richard Brookfield as well. So these drivers at the moment, I don't quite know the team name, I apologize, but are having a fantastic show. Is that a 4th car from this team exiting the pits? I've just joined this series for the first time as a commentator. Is this an invasion of this team?
They've got numbers, and they could form a rolling roadblock potentially here for the likes of Harrison, Oliver, Boyd trying to catch them up. But going long, it's kind of worked out pretty well there for Funslow, rejoining the race right with his teammates, and I have to assume friends of Caplice and Hen. Are they going to be friends at the end of this race, though, the way they are going? There's the screenshot right there.
Yeah, absolutely. What a result this would be if they can hang on for another 21 minutes. Of course, at the moment, that's 11 and a half laps. But we know it will be slightly less than that, with a safety car still scheduled to come out at this point, with everybody being extremely safe with their pit stops, apart from Matthew Pontello, who currently holds a 12-second lead. The teammates getting punchy, and Team Pink is getting ahead of Team Red at the moment in this particular team scrap. I love the color coordination between them all, but the coordination on track right now has gone out the window. There's no formation. This is the gloves are off. I want to lead this race. I want to be the winner for ILEC Motorsport at this point in time, and they will scrap their way towards turn number 10 as the safety car comes out, and Matthew Pontello is meters away from pit entry, but it's not going to happen.
Well, you play with fire, and Pontello might be about to get burned here. I think pit in is probably technically closed. Yep.
Well, we're hearing he might not have any fuel, so he may have no choice but to dive into pit entry. So this may be, getting a penalty may be the lesser of two evils, but nonetheless, a shame there for Matthew Pontello. So he will drop considerably down the order, and he will coast on in to his pit box and take service. And Matthew Cartalone, what do we say? On my scoring, it's saying he is on the lead lap. So honestly, this could have gone so much worse for him, but it was a top 15 invert. He started 15th after winning the race. Currently, 20 minutes to go, finds himself in 24th. That's not the direction he needed to go.
So we've got the purple ILEC, we've got the green ILEC, we've got the red ILEC. I've pulled up the Teletubby names.
I was going to say.
So it's Tinky Winky leading with Poe in second. Third place looks to be Lala, and no, sorry, Lala's in fourth, and it's Dipsy in third at the moment.
Are we really going to call a driver Dipsy in terms of nicknames? I feel like this will not go well. Wasn't there a vacuum on the Teletubbies or something that spoke? I feel
yes,
like...
Nunu, a much-loved companion to the Teletubbies. The Nunu is fantastic at cleaning up.
Well, that's fantastic, because there's a lot of cleanup on track needed with all the chaos we have seen so far. I don't know what this broadcast has come. This has just gone downhill. This is what happens when our regular broadcaster Cam Dance is not making it. He was an hour late. He wasn't going to make it tonight, so I filled in, and we've ended up with the Teletubbies in 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're speaking about talking vacuums. Shannon McMillan is making a lot more sense than we're speaking in the broadcast at the moment, as he dives into the pit lane to try and get a bit of service ahead of this safety car restart. Matthew McMillan, I believe, getting some service as well, so that's two less cars that Matthew Cartalone doesn't have to pass. He will be able to effectively skate straight past them as he stays out on the racing surface, and the lights are still on the iRacing official pace truck. And I'm actually just noticing that Matthew Cartalone is sliding his TCR car just a little bit around at the moment, just trying to get some heat into these cars, even though they're actually not really at racing speeds, just trying to get a bit of extra temperature where they can. But let's get a restart, or a replay, sorry, of our race start and see what happened, because there was a big crash for Jack Childs behind, and I think he almost went up and over into the guardrail just about, so it was 4 wide there, and it was going to become 5 wide. They all met in the middle and just squeezed into the outside wall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think, rolls there for Jack Childs. So Mark 1 Esports with a big repair bill in the at the end of this race. That's a shame to see, but that was a big crash there, and I think we might get another look now.
Yeah, so you see 5 wide there. It doesn't end well. One car into another, and then they all get tripped around towards the wall. You saw a huge variation in the starts up and down the field. Some drivers really nailing the standing start. Others, either getting some wheel spin or bogging down, whatever it was. Some had better starts than others, and that led to this sort of 3 wide, 4 wide, 5 wide situation that regrettably, was not really going to end well. You could kind of sense it, and that is the way it went. While we are behind the pace car, though, an update on big winners and drivers who've gone backwards in the field since the race start. Your reverse grid pole sitter, Greg Holmes, is down in 22nd, having lost 21 positions so far in this race, unfortunately. Your big winners are Michael Smith crossing from very deep in the field, up 12 positions into 16th, and, well, 4 cars you see in the top 4, also pretty fortunate. Caplice is up 4 positions, Hen is up 2, Funslow is up 8, and Richard Brookfield is up 2. Then also Leigh Harrison, 8 positions gained from outside of the top 10 into 5th place and staring at a podium or a potential race win when we get going again at the end of this lap.
Well, Leigh Harrison is probably the danger man, isn't he? Of course, he came 4th, oh so close to a podium, I do believe, in race number 1. No, my apologies. He did come 3rd. He did get the podium, and he was just a little bit away from 2nd and 1st place battle. So he's got 1 podium already on the board tonight, so there's no real pressure on his shoulders, so to say. He's been here. He's done this. He knows how to get a podium in a TCR car here at Barcelona. So he just needs to replicate it again and get past the ILEC duo or what? It's a duo trio.
Quintuplet is like 5, right? So quad.
It just doesn't sound right. We're hearing there might also be a 5th ILEC car in this field as well. I'm going to go digging. I'm seeing in, at the moment, 9th place, I believe, is Patrick Panton. And, he's my favorite in the race because, of course, those that know me know I love the color quite bright blue. And that is a very bright blue. So I'm going to support them from Team ILEC. Do you have a personal favorite, David?
No, look, 5 of them I couldn't dare pick favourite except to say that Liam Caplice has got a big job on his shoulders coming up to do this restart. I don't think Jack Boyd got the best possible restart in race 1. You don't want to go too early because that gives everyone behind such an opportunity to slipstream and pass you into turn 1. But if you wait all the way till the green flag, then you don't get any advantage off the drivers behind who launch at the same time as you. So the trick, I think, is to start backing the field up a little bit here. Don't go until out of the final corner, but keep everyone else guessing exactly when you're going to launch into life.
Saw a completely different strategy, didn't we, from Jack Boyd in the first race, where he actually went very, very late in the straight, which, at first I was a little bit puzzled by, but in theory, it actually wasn't a bad strategy because he's reduced the amount of time they were on the front straight. They've reduced the amount of time for the second placed car to actually get an overspeed into turn number 1. So it actually went okay for Jack Boyd. He held on to the race lead that particular time, but he is a long way away from the race lead this time around. Currently sitting in 7th place, your race leader is Liam Caplice, ahead of Christopher Hen, Adam Funslow, and Richard Brookfield. The ILEC 1, 2, 3, 4. Will it finish that way in 13 minutes time? You can assume there'll be radio communications between the 4, so all of them get a great start, but can Leigh Harrison go with them? He got a podium in race 1. Can he make it a double? It's green flag racing. We're underway, and already Leigh Harrison in 5th place is looking threatening against Richard Brookfield. The top 3 are spread out. 4th place, not the same story. Brookfield is having a lot of pressure applied to the outside into turn number 1. It's a drag race, and late on the brakes they will both go, but Harrison is helping his teammates out here, putting up a big fight, and that is exactly what these ILEC cars can afford to do. All 3 of them can afford to play rear gunner to Liam Caplice at this point in time. So this is a great opportunity for them to score a big haul of points towards a team championship. But Leigh Harrison can't find a way past this. Turn number 4 is the next opportunity. And Leigh Harrison is having the driver of Richard Brookfield hang tough on the outside, which then becomes the inside. So Richard Brookfield defending beautifully at the moment as Aaron Oliver decides to spoil the party for Harrison, and they're going to fight now.
Huge responsibility here for Richard Brookfield, and he still managed to hold them off, but he could throw big blocks, big defensive moves at just Lee Harrison, but sometimes he goes one way of the track, and then Aaron Oliver will look to go to the other. At the top of the hill, fast corner, fourth gear, Richard Brookfield might be a little bit wrong-footed here. The drivers behind him can have a great run at Brookfield and Harrison. Jack Boyd, well, there's only a couple laps for him to try and work some magic.
Picking up magic around the outside of one. How about a second contact shown the outside of the track? And he's not too happy about that in game chat, but that was a big bit of driving there from Jack Boyd to go from 7th on the restart up to 6th, but almost 5th in a single move as well. But crucially, your top 3 are checking out. 1.2 seconds between Funslow and Brookfield. The ILAC cars are bolting, and Brookfield is playing beautiful rear gunner at the moment, but he doesn't get the exit he needs. He had 2 wheels in the gravel. His exit speed has been compromised, and Harrison is going to close up by a millimeter here, a millimeter there, but a millimeter is not enough. He needed meters, and the meters were not happening in the slipstream. And again, Brookfield holds on. A great run through turn 1 for Harrison. Is the inside of turn 3 an opportunity? One of your ILEC cars, that is Christopher Henn. Slow down penalty drops down the order, so 1 ILEC car down, but Brookfield hangs tough. He continues to defend. He is doing a brilliant job for the team as Harrison aggressively to the inside, but we saw this last time. The inside's all well and good, but it becomes the outside next time around. Jack Boyd is hunting the back of Harrison as well, and late on the brakes around the outside will go Jack Boyd. Contact between the two, and Harrison holds the spot again, but Jack Boyd can't find a way through. He's hunting, he's lurking, he's pushing, but there's nothing happening in terms of opportunities to find a way past Lee Harris at the moment, as Christopher Henn, all kinds of out of shape there, and will now potentially lose a spot to Hayden Jackson. Contact, and they hold on to it through the high-speed turn number 9.
Bottles everyone up behind as well, though. Here comes Patrick Panton, here comes Daniel Webster as well. A lot of 2 wide down the back straight. Huge braking zone, and Ivan Vantigiato makes it 3 wide down the middle there. He's going to pick off Panton.
Yes, and look at this scrap. It continues. It rages on into yet another corner, as that's the driver of Ivan Vantigiato still applying pressure. But Funslow, he was 3rd at the start of this lap. His teammate got a slowdown, promoted him to 2nd, and then sheer pace got him up to 1st place now. Liam Caplice has relinquished the race lead. ILEC are fighting in between themselves, but that's no good, because at the moment Richard Brookfield will maintain an ILEC 1, 2, 3. But look at this, as Funslow and Caplice will go side by side. It's turn number 1. They're killing each other as a team at the moment. They're slowing each other up side by side between 1 and 2. They almost spin each other there. They're checking each other up. They might be hurting themselves for a result for the team. Of course, no team orders apparently in this team. And what that has meant is Jack Boyd, your race 1 2nd place finisher, is now up the inside and is going to potentially be on the podium for a 2nd time. Lap 10, 4 laps to go, or 4.5 laps to go, with 8 minutes on the clock. And around the outside goes Jack Boyd, late on the brakes. ILEC still putting up a big fight, and Brookfield continues to hang tough. But I think it is a matter of time before the wall that is Richard Brookfield is broken and torn down, and Jack Boyd will seize the day, seize the position, and seize the podium as well. He's up in the 3rd, 1 ILEC car down, 2 ILEC cars down, 2 to go. He's halfway there to a race win in race number 6 of the championship.
Yeah, absolutely mega restart, mega couple of laps there from Jack Boyd to go from 7th on the restart to just half a second away from the race lead. You have to think a little bit of the battles between Caplice and Funslow might have helped him there, but you cannot take away Jack Boyd avoiding some of the carnage, cutting through last lap to get right with the leaders. And this is the carnage.
Yeah, Dale Carpenter, I think, running into a few little issues there in this particular lap. We go up to our top 3, who continue to scrap, and I wonder what will be being said at Team ILEC at the moment. A great team, had a great result lined up, but Adam Funslow, he wants to be the team leader at the moment. He wants to be the one that takes his team to victory. You can see Jack Boyd behind, lurking and lurking, but it's between the ILEC cars at the moment. What can Funslow do on the brakes? It's a little bit later than Caprice, but will they go side by side through 1 and 2? They do not. They go single file this time, but Caprice is being haunted by Boyd.
Boyd looked for the inside at turn 3, but the door closed, and that's going to check both of them up. Brookfield is not giving up on this. He's going to play defense from behind to try to make Jack Boyd worried. He's looking for the inside at turn 4. Boyd knows that that is a feeble ploy and is going to hold on to third.
He does. He holds on for yet another lap. We're looking at 3.5 laps to go as Hayden Jackson finds their way past. Christopher Hen is the driver of Aaron Oliver, forces his way past Brookfield. He said Brookfield was playing defense from behind. Well, sadly, he should have been looking behind because a massive move from Aaron Oliver slides his way up into 4th place. Can he? Of course, he was the driver that missed out on a podium in race number 1. Can he get redemption in race number 2? Lee Harrison, he was fighting at the front against Brookfield for so long. Second time around, it's a lot easier, although Brookfield gets a pretty nice exit, and this battle may continue all the way towards turn number 10. Up the inside, there we go. Jack Boyd's up the inside of Caprice. He wants this move happening, and contact almost rotated his Caprice. It'll be a bump and run. We'll see how the race steward, Isaac Edwards, will have a look at that. Does he think that was an unfair move? A bump and run out of position. We will see. We'll leave that up to him as Jack Boyd finds his way into second. Now 0.7 of a second is the margin, all the way up to Adam Funslow. Can he hunt it down, David?
It's absolutely possible because they're still going to have 3 laps to go from here. And it is just 2.5 seconds to cover your entire top 6. Aaron Oliver, who we ride on board with, is right in the middle of that, following 3rd place Liam Caprice, who might be a little aggrieved by that contact, but he definitely saw Jack Boyd coming. Was Boyd pushing wide? Did Boyd try to make space where there wasn't some? Aaron Oliver is now shaping up to maybe try to do similar.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see how this does shape up in the next few laps. But that 0.7 of a second margin that was at the start of the lap has been cut down significantly as brave on the brakes is Aaron Oliver. And hey, how about a bit of contact as well? Shove Liam Caprice, your round 1 championship leader. Of course, Liam Caprice, but now he has been demoted down massively, and Lee Harrison is looking up the inside. More contact, beating and banging. I think Caprice is into the back of Oliver, and then he was also getting hit by Harrison at the same time as well. So these drivers are beating and banging the panels off these cars. I'm lucky, well, they're lucky that it's race number 2. Because if there was a 3rd race, I don't think there'd be any cars left in this particular race. I want to go back up to your race lead though. Jack Boyd, it looks like it's a long way back in towards turn number 10, but he has been so late on the brakes so many times, but this is not one of those times. He plays it cautious, gets the mid-corner speed, and we'll see how it goes from there. But Jack Boyd is hunting. He is stalking his prey, and his prey is in the form of Adam Funslowers. Look at these guys. Caprice is still trying against Lee Harrison at the moment. Almost contact on the corner exit as well. Almost contact on the corner mid-corner. There was almost contact through the entry as well. They're all scrapping at every point they can, but back up to your race lead. It's a great exit from Jack Boyd. He's got the slipstream. He's got 2 laps to go. It's the 32. It's Funslow, and it's about to be fun time for Jack Boyd. To the inside, he will go. Fastest lap of the race, and it might be the race lead as well, but brave is Funslow, is making Jack Boyd work for it, who hits the inside curb. I thought that'd be a done deal. I thought that'd be easy, but Funslow fights back, hits the back bumper of the 32 car is Jack Boyd. Try and push him a little bit wide, get the run, but can't make it happen. Turn 4's up next. Is he brave on the brakes? Not brave enough, in fact a bit too brave from Funslow, who almost overshoots. But Jack Boyd, he may have to do this on the last lap.
Piece by piece, the ILEC armor has been chipped away, because now behind Funslow comes Aaron Oliver, comes Lee Harrison. And if Boyd can't get this done soon, he very well might be looking at Oliver and Harrison trying to come at it as well. That's why he's looking here, looking there. The more they do this, the more Oliver and Harrison start to catch. Boyd wants to get through now, not on the last lap.
Where Jack Boyd has really impressed me all race, under brakes into turn 10, which if you don't know where that is, it's coming up now. Is this the lap where he goes for it? It's a late look up the inside. And look at Funslow. He knew there was a dive coming. He knew that would happen. But he just needs to hang tough. Just stay there, 32. Hold your line. Keep the nose there. And you get the inside contact between the two for the race lead with a lap and a half to go. Beating and banging off each other's doors. And here comes Aaron Oliver in third. He's joined the party exactly what Jack Boyd didn't need. He will lead onto the final lap. But there's a headwind into turn one. It's a long straight. It's a draft for Funslow. Can he get the run? It was a good exit actually from Jack Boyd, doing everything he needed to do. And now Oliver is challenging for second. And what that means is Funslow can't use the draft on your race leader. How late on the brakes goes Oliver? Not as late as Funslow. And Jack Boyd's overshot. He's overshot and it's going to go side by side through 1 and 2. Almost contact the corner exit. And Jack Boyd almost gets turned by the ILEC car. So close between these guys as they continue to scrap away. Harrison with the corner exit speed. What can he do? On the outside, heading towards turn number 4. It's the last lap and Boyd's early on the brakes again. Checking everybody up. How about almost 3 wide out of turn number 4? Almost contact again between Funslow and Harrison, but this time Harrison gets the move happening as more contact into the back. Not once, but twice. Oliver now slides up the inside, and it was 1, 2, 3, 4 on the restart for ILEC. Not a single one stands on the podium anymore. It is Jack Boyd leading with half a lap to go. Lee Harrison in second, but Aaron Oliver applying the blowtorch to the back at the moment of the number 26 car. It's got the number 1 on the side of it, but on the timing screens, it is 26. Aaron Oliver, what can he do? Is he close enough into turn 10? I don't think he is. Is anyone close enough? Is the fuel correct for Jack Boyd? Will he cough and splutter across the line? Will he miss an apex? Can Lee Harrison get up the inside? We're about to find out with 3 corners to go. And I think maybe, just maybe, in a 30-minute race we've had twice, we may just for the first time have our drivers single file, but for the final time on the end of lap number 14 for HM Engineering, Jack Boyd is going to take a stellar victory away in race number 2. The podium rounded out by Lee Harrison and Aaron Oliver.
All beating and banging and barging all the way to the end, but Jack Boyd in the end is successful there. Matthew Cardellone, unfortunately, back in 13th, but that was hell of a race and tough work, a big slog from Jack Boyd to grab a race win.
Absolutely, as all the Team ILEC cars threw themselves into turn 1 and having an absolutely enormous accident, but Jack Boyd is your race winner after 30 minutes, 32 seconds and 5/10 of a second. And I can tell you right now, he would have been watching every one of those tenths of a second, even in the race distance. That was a hard-fought race. If ever has Jack Boyd had to work for a race win, that may have just been it. Results up on screen, and HM Engineering do take the checkered flag ahead of Harrison Race Tech as a team in second place with Lee Harrison as the driver and Aaron Oliver Racing, believe it or not, with Aaron Oliver in third place on the podium. Adam Funslow would lead a quad of ILEC Motorsports cars, headed off by Funslow, Caplice in second, Brookfield and Christopher Henn in fourth of those particular cars and 7th overall. Sam Lehman would finish in 8th ahead of Hayden Jackson and Glenn Boyd in 10th.
In 11th, Caleb Hydes went backwards a position or 2 in this one, but so too did Daniel Webster to finish 12th. Matthew Cardellone in 13th, race 1 winner, disappointed with race 2. Michael Smith crossing in 14th, Darren Sharp 15th, Brady Buchanan in 16th place, and then Patrick Panton for 17th, Matthew Pontello 18th, Dale Carpenter 19th, and Nick Skariev with 20th.
From 21st was Ivan Vantigiato, who would finish in 21st, but an improved result from race number 1. Shannon McMillan in 22nd ahead of Ben Edwards, Philip Paradiso, and Matthew McMillan, who rounded out the top 25, with Greg Holmes, our last car scored, on the lead lap. George Gutierrez would finish 3 laps down in 27th, ahead of Jack Childs, who had an enormous accident right from the get-go. And for Mario Vartanian and Andrew Hobby, and also the likes of Adam Sharp and Steve Owen, tonight was just not their night. What a disaster it was for them.
Yeah, so retirements, DNSs in race 2 there at the very tail end of the field, but 30 cars or so was definitely enough for some action, because that restart all the way from when the green flag flew to when they brought out the checkered flag, it was anyone's race in the top 8. And there were points there where you thought ILEC had it, points where Lee Harrison or Aaron Oliver were looking good. Adam Funslow maybe could have held on, Liam Caplice likewise. Jack Boyd was the winner in the end. We've managed to dig our way around the paddock and find quite a few of them, Bo.
We absolutely have, and what we might do is get our race winner, Jack Boyd, into the commentary box. Jack, you had to work very, very hard for that second race win.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. Yeah, awesome race with Aaron and Lee and a few other guys up the top. So no doubt the championship points are really close now, and yeah, the upcoming rounds are very exciting for sure.
They absolutely are. It's going to be an interesting end to the season for all of you guys, but as well to that first race, you found yourself in the lead battle, which meant that you obviously started towards the back for race number 2. Just how easy or how difficult is it to make an overtake happen in a TCR car here at Barcelona?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the first race I showed it pretty clearly. I mean, I had a pretty good lead, and then one small mistake. I think it was a slowdown coming into the last corner. Lost 3 spots and only got back to second. So yeah, small mistakes hurt a lot, and yeah, it's really hard to pass as well.
It absolutely is. Of course, you came into this championship, well, into this particular round, second in the championship, and I believe you may walk away with the championship lead after Matthew Cartellone finishes down in 13th place in this particular race. So how does that change your mindset moving on to round 4?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, bad luck to him. We were having a really close battle with points there. So I guess next coming rounds I can kind of not try so hard for the win, maybe take a few less risks, just try and get as much points as I can.
Fantastic. Of course, points is how you win a championship, and you are collecting a whole bunch of points at the moment. Jack, before I let you go, is there anybody from HM Engineering you want to thank?
Yeah, just a huge thanks to all the partners, the admins, everyone putting on the great little bunch of guys we got going. So yeah, looking forward to next year, and just a huge thanks to everyone at HM.
Well, thank you very much, Jack, and congratulations once again on a brilliant race win. What we might do, David, is I believe you've gone through the paddock and you've managed to find our second place in race number 2, Lee Harrison.
Hey guys, wow, yeah, great to talk to you guys tonight.
It's delightful to have you, because you're on the podium once again, which means decent points, but what a battle at the end there. For the reverse grid race, what does that change with your strategy?
You just got to be a bit more patient off the start, let the guys in front sort of open up the gaps for you. You're always going to have that safety car, so if you can pit nice and early and find yourself some clear room while those guys are mucking about and fighting, you're going to make up heaps of time on them. So that was always going to be the strategy. Pit end of lap 1, any incidental contacts that we had on the out lap, get them fixed and get back out in clear air. And I think that helped us, coming back off the restart in about P5.
Barcelona historic, long pit straight, lot of flowing corners. Was it similar to Phillip Island? What was different with setting up your moves, with having a battle wheel to wheel?
I think the biggest thing tonight was the wind. So you would notice the wind down the front straight, and then everywhere else you'd go for a braking maneuver and it would just push you past the apex. So you really had to time them right, and if you missed your braking zone, you knew you were going to slide straight into the car beside you. So plenty of practice went in earlier today to make sure that we'd picked our braking markers, and I think that showed off tonight. We made some really good late lunges where we were able to keep the car stopped on the apex and not crash into the guy alongside of us.
Double podium, good points haul. What's it going to take to steal some more wins away from Jack Boyd and Aaron Oliver?
I'm just going to have to stay out of the rubbish that's kept me off the podium for the last 2 rounds. I know we started on a pretty strong race at Bathurst with race 1. We finished P3 there, but since then I don't think I've avoided an accident at all. I've found myself in the thick of them. So tonight we just came in with a fresh outlook on the racing, and I just wanted to stay clean, stay out of trouble. So that's going to be the goal moving forward. We've got 3 weeks now to start practicing for Spa. Yeah, we're going to try and do the same again.
Well, thanks for talking to us once again. Enjoy your Christmas. Anyone you want to thank while you're here on the SimSpeed broadcast?
Yeah, far out. It's been a little while since I've done this. So KP Tech, Ultratune, Modbury and Golden Grove, Aussie Karts, Slipstream Motorsport, Digital Marketing Tribe. I know my dad's racing, watching. So Adelaide Indoor Mini RC Races, Race Paint Custom Graphics as well, and RSW Graphics.
Well done. That saves us having to rattle off some of those as well.
Too easy. Thanks, guys. Enjoy your night and enjoy your Christmas, everybody.
See you next year. And with that, Bo, we have one more.
We absolutely do, and we have Mr. Aaron Oliver with us. And Aaron, I want to take you first all the way back to race number 1. You're running in 4th on the final few laps, and you were just trying to find a way past Mr. Lee Harrison. You couldn't quite do it. What was that battle like from your perspective?
Yeah, I just didn't have the pace in the end to get past Lee. I was just holding there, and we still got the reverse top 15 races to come. So I decided just to keep that position there and not make any risky moves, as we've seen in the past weeks.
Absolutely, but what that did do was it meant you started all the way down in 12th place for the second of the races. Of course, you had to work your way through the pack. We spoke to Jack about it as well, but I want to get your thoughts on just how difficult it is to actually make a pass happen in a TCR car here at Barcelona.
Yeah, it is a very hard track to pass on, especially with all the fast-flowing corners. It's a bit of a hard track to pass on, that's for sure. They're just so flowing. You just got to really stick the car up there and make sure you got the move before you take it. You've really got to prepare for it.
Oh, you're definitely prepared for quite a few passes, especially in those those final few laps against the ILEC Motorsport cars. I noticed many times you would dive down the inside very late on the brakes at the turn number 5, the downhill left-hander. Was that a favourite corner for you to try and set up a pass?
It actually was quite a favourite corner down there. I had a bit of a good run off for turn 4, and I noticed that they would go wide there, and you could really just stick it down there on the brakes and use the lower gears to pull the car up. A few times I was using second to get out of it, as it was so tight. It was a bit of a 180. It was good passing down there. I really enjoyed it.
Well, you made it all happen and you got a podium. And do you think you can then use this podium? Of course, you got one in round number 1. You got another here in round number 3. Can you use this podium to build up a championship charge over the next few rounds?
We're already back in the top 15 at the moment. So if we start getting the better results throughout the rest of the series and be more consistent, I certainly think that we can get back up there. But yeah, at the moment, the pace is very strong, and we're going to keep on the good charge for the next rounds in 3 weeks' time at Spa.
Well, fantastic. Before I let you go, Aaron, is there anybody from the team you want to thank?
Yeah, certainly. I do want to thank Penrite, Burgess Paint and Panel, Revolution Race Gear, British Batteries and Solar, and yeah, just all the guys that support me in that, and the Club Day Masters for putting on a great lead, and SimsFeed for the awesome stream.
Well, thank you very much, Aaron, and happy holidays to yourself, and good luck in the future rounds as well. But David, I'm just going to get your closing thoughts on what has been a ridiculously action-packed round of racing.
Well, it really followed the form guide that was set up a week ago. When they tweaked that format to these 30-minute races, it really brought on this crazy, but with a little bit of strategy element to it as well, racing that we've really loved to see. No one's been able to, get away and run away with a race win. It's always been fantastic wheel-to-wheel battling, a little bit of slipstream here and there for, our top 5 positions, and it's rewarded those who've fought hard but fought clean. And while there's been some little problems deeper in the field, I think what we've seen amongst at least the battles for the top 10 has been really clean, really professional, and everything we hear from the drivers says that they're loving it. And my goodness, is it just cracking action to watch. You couldn't script it, you love to see it.
You absolutely do. And the next time we'll be seeing the Club Day Masters is for a Christmas special event on the 30th of December, which should be fantastic to see. And I cannot wait to see how these drivers get around in what will be a very unique event in the Lamborghini and TCR multi-class. So a very different combination there. But if you are just interested in this particular TCR series, you'll have to wait until the 11th of January in the new year, where we will continue for round number 4 at Spa-Francorchamps. But for those of us that aren't joining us for any more broadcasts for the rest of this particular week, Merry Christmas, enjoy your holidays. But on behalf of myself, Bo Elbert, David Haynes, my co-commentator, and Jay Kennedy on the director's chair, we will see you all next time. This is fantastic. This is
GT Racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my god.
God, what?